Okay, welcome back. We're still on page 525 talking about digital certificates. But about the only way that you can get a self-signing certificate to work is like, let's say you're you're a company that provides an internal website just for your own employees. No one else gets to see it. Okay, so I build a certificate and I put it on my internal website. I don't go buy one. I do it myself. In order to make this work, I would have to go to every single PC in the organization and place that security certificate in what's called a trusted place. In other words, I have to tell, every browser has to be told, please do trust this self-signed certificate. Now, clearly that'd be okay in a corporate environment, but for the web, no way. I mean, if I bring up a website that's not like the one I brought up with Google being spelled wrong, yeah, I expect my antivirus to pop up and say, whoa, 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 what's going on here? All right. So, let's continue. So, again, most of if you're going with the hosting options on Chapter 10, particularly like the shared hosting, I don't pay for an SSL certificate outside of my normal fees. I just pay a monthly fee, and they just provide me a certificate, and that's all fine and dandy. Each company, like VeriSign, could have different levels of trust. So here's the simplest layer of trust. The simplest layer of trust is I say that my name is John Doe, and here's my email address, and all they do is what's called an email challenge. They send an email back that says, hey, didn't you just contact us? And you say, yeah. And that's it. You have verified that your email matches your name. That's it. That's not a very good certificate, but it's one. The next one is down a little bit more, where it's more like a security clearance. I mean, they're going to be checking out, your name and your address and your business. Maybe you'll have a Dun & Bradstreet, credit report for your company. There's lots of more layers to this thing where they have to. And then lastly, there's a layer 3 where you physically have to meet with somebody with an interview. I mean, you have to show up with notarized papers. They have to physically see you. They have to sign. They interview you, again, just like getting a security clearance. They go through a heck of a lot more. They'll contact your references and ask about you. Okay. So the bottom line is, there's how much do you trust is kind of a scale. It's sort of like getting a secret or a top secret clearance. All right. I'm going to skip the section on SSL processing. That's geekdom. If you're into computers, that's great. If you're not, you can skip over it. But let's talk on page 526. Let's talk about the order and payment system, the shopping cart, right? The order fulfillment and credit card processing. So credit cards. So let me tell you. Let's say you're in the business of selling Beanie Babies, and somebody uses a credit card to purchase your product. How do you get paid? Do I get a check in the mail, or how's that work? Well, I get paid through my merchant bank. My merchant bank is where that credit card processing took place. And so I get money put into my account at the merchant bank. So I don't get paid by the customer, right? The customer pays me through an intermediary, then I get my money. All right. The reason for this is important is if there's a dispute, your merchant bank will just hold on to that. Let's say, for example, it cost $100 and you sent it to them and it got busted up in shipment. You're not going to get paid that $100. If the customer calls the credit card company and the credit card company says, look, I didn't get my package and it got busted up, they're going to put a hold on that $100. So you're not going to get paid that $100. The actual person who's supposed to be selling the product, the money's going to be held at the merchant bank until some decision is made on whether or not they're going to reimburse it, or so reimburses directly to, or they're going to let it go through, one of the two. Okay. So you need a merchant bank. And in the old days, getting a merchant bank was complex. You went to one of your local banks, and you say, I need a merchant bank account. and I need to handle, MasterCard and Visa and Discover and, listed all the things. And that used to be kind of complex. Now it's not so much. There's an awful lot. You've seen on TV like the Square, where you have a little thing that you plug into your iPhone that allows you to run the credit cards through. They've completely made this easy. So you could have a garage sale and take credit cards using Square. Temporary thing. And Square is one of the things where you don't have to have a long-term commitment, long-term contract. You basically say, hey, maybe once a month or maybe every 6 months I might have a garage sale, so I want to go ahead and get Square. And they just charge a percent. Now, I'll admit, a pretty healthy percent. A heck of a lot more than what a merchant bank would cost. But again, there's lots of advantages for that. Okay. So, if you went into the web and did a Google search on, merchant bank rates. At a rate, how much money do they charge? Remember now, the credit card company is going to take a percent. So I sell something for $100. So right off the bat, I'm not going to get $100 because the credit card is going to take their slice, right? So American Express is going to take their chunk, and Visa is going to take their chunk. And then my merchant bank is going to take a chunk, right? So the card company gets a chunk, and my merchant bank takes a chunk, and then I get what's left over. So I never get the $100. I'll probably get $95 when this thing is done because, 2% went to a credit card company and, 1% went to my bank. My merchant bank. Okay. There are some alternatives, and that things like PayPal, you've seen all this stuff. And then, of course, the whole chip and pin thing. We're supposed to be moving. In fact, the deadline was like over a year ago to have all commercial credit cards switched over to chip and pin. There was no real push for debit cards, although everyone just kind of assumed, like me, I assumed that my debit card was going to switch over at the same time. But that necessarily hasn't happened. But anyway, the whole idea is that what's the difference between having a credit card without a chip and a credit card with a chip? Let's go back to the Target scenario where they got broke into. Okay. In the old system, I would swipe my card and type in my PIN. And hit the button. And it would store the PIN in the device. With the chip, I stick the chip in. It asks for me to enter my PIN. I go hit button, and what it stores is a hashed version of that. So if we had been using chip and PIN, that whole Target breach would have never occurred because they would have never been able to get my credit card information in my PIN number. Cool? All right. So it reduces the amount of stuff that's stored, and therefore, if somebody did break in, they'd get nothing of any value. They get a 32-bit number saying, "Okay, this credit card's good." And I'm going, well, if I'm a hacker, that doesn't do me anything. Okay, so chip and PIN. There's also what's called a store value card. We're talking about shopping cards. You know what I'm talking about. A gift card, right? Those kind of things. And so they run like a credit card, but they're not backed by a system. They're backed by the store. So if I go to Barnes & Noble and get a gift card to give my mom, when she runs it through, it's not going through a merchant bank or anything. It's just run through their own little system. So everyone has their own system to dealing with these gift cards. Digital wallet, we're not quite there, but an awful lot of people are switching over to like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay, where you just use your smartphone and go doink to buy your lunch at the local lunch counter. Those are happening. I see some out there, but there's an awful lot of places where it just doesn't work yet. Oddly enough, the places where it does work are typically those things frequented by busy business people, like a lunch counter, right? Like in downtown where you have a bunch of businessmen get out and then they're running across the street to buy lunch and they're kind of in a hurry. Yeah, Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, paying with your phone using near field communication, NFC. And then, of course, digital cash. Bitcoin has been around. Bitcoin is I don't know, some people just think it's a little too shady, and I don't really have an opinion on that part, but it's not necessarily a viable way to buy a car or pay for your tuition. Although I have seen some colleges that'll take Bitcoin as tuition. Kind of weird. Okay, the last thing in this chapter, on 528, they talk about the storefront. How do I get my shopping cart where it identifies me, all of my information, my shipping information, billing information, shipping information, all the information about the cart, what's the line. I have item number 4, and here's the description, here's the quantity I'm doing, here's the unit price, here's the extended price. Down at the bottom, it's got shipping and taxes and all of that. How does it do all that? Okay. Well, do I have to hire a programmer every time I want to put that in my webpage? Probably not. In fact, that's probably a bad idea. So there's an awful lot of these things called instant online storefront. There's no coding whatsoever. All you do is when you get to that point in your store, you just have a link behind the scenes where they click add to cart. It doesn't go to your system at all. It actually goes to somebody else's system. An entire system out there designed to do shopping cart. That's all it does. It does shopping carts for probably hundreds of websites in your area. So all you're doing is just using a service to do this. And of course, they're probably going to charge so many cents per transaction. So, but no coding. I don't have anything to do. That's pretty doggone cool. The other one is off-the-shelf stuff. The stuff, example, in my web hosting environment, they have shopping cart software that you just plug into, so to speak. You quite literally you go to this control panel at the web hosting site and say, and they have multiple choices for shopping carts. Three or four of them to choose from. I'll take that one. And you just click on it and it says, hang on a second. It goes, ding. And now at Presto Changeo, that stuff is up in your website. Now you got to do some stuff. You got to go in and hook up all the links and do some things. But because they don't know who your merchant bank is and things of that nature. But it can build all this stuff for you. So it's essentially copy and paste. Get you there. So PayPal provides a copy and paste thing. In fact, you can go to the PayPal website and just copy and paste that into your code in your web page, and Presto Changeo, you've got a PayPal shopping cart. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, the custom. I'm going to do it myself. I wouldn't recommend that at all. There's too many security issues, and again, if you're one of the people who like sleepless nights worrying about things, maybe you ought to do that. But I'm just telling you, you need to be focusing on whatever your business is, not on the fact that the credit card information is somehow vulnerable. You need to have that being done by somebody who does that for a living. So I would never recommend anyone do a custom write your own approach, unless of course you're a big company. I'm sure, for example, Amazon wrote their own because they're big enough and that's all they do for a living. I mean, they probably have security professionals on staff that do 24/7 making sure their credit card system is not broke. A mom and pop would never do that. Okay, we have reached the end of the chapter, and we'll see you guys again in some future chapter.